Hey, I'm Gibby.
And I'm Lex, and welcome to another episode of Porch Swing People.
As all of our listeners know, we bring on a guest to the virtual porch and we have a conversation about their past, their present, and some of the future aspirations.
Well said, Gibby. And who do we have on the porch today?
Today we have a special guest. It's one of my older cousins, somebody I looked up to greatly when I was growing up as a teenager, and I am excited to have him on the porch with us today.
Are you talking about your cousin Shawn?
I am talking about my cousin Shawn.
Should we bring him on?
Let's bring Shawn on.
Welcome to Porch Swing People.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Shawn.
No problem.
Whoa, look at that brute in the back.
They're always around me. They follow me everywhere. Where is he? Bowser? Yoshi?
Wait, how many do you have?
I have two dogs.
Bowser and Yoshi?
Bowser's the big boy. He's a mastiff. And Yoshi's she's a rescue I got from the shelter here because Bowser can't be alone. And so when I would go to work when he was a puppy, I would come home. He'd be so depressed. I felt really bad. So I'm like, I need to get him a buddy.
Yeah.
My daughter got a dog and she named it Peach, so we'd stay with that.
Cute.
Oh, Princess Peach is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Nice.
Mario characters.
Yeah. So, Shawn, thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Born 1962 in Keokuk, Iowa. Shortly after, moved to California, a town called El Monte. Lived there for about 6 months. Then moved to Baldwin Park. Stayed there for the next 13 years of my life until high school. Moved back to Keokuk and graduated from Keokuk High School. Sat out of school a couple of years, I think 2. Went back to college. Played football in college. Did pretty well. Went to the Dolphins from college when Marino was a quarterback and Shula was a coach. Wasn't there very long. I injured my knee my senior year. Still have problems with it, by the way. Played 3 games, and when I went down there and they checked it, it just didn't pass whatever test they had for me, so they sent me home. Very, very big bummer.
Yeah.
That was probably the highlight of my life as far as myself was concerned. And then got married shortly after, and then 10 years later had kids, and my kids are now in college, actually they're both in college, which is weird because I'm pretty old to have kids in college. I'm really old, actually. So my son's a senior in college. My daughter she's in a med school getting her PT doctorate.
Right
on. Sweet.
My son will be done in May, actually, this month, at the end of this month.
Oh, congrats. That's
He's
awesome.
at the Air Force Academy.
Cool.
Awesome.
And my daughter will be graduating in December.
Wow.
That's amazing. Congrats to both of them.
Yeah. So that's kind of my life in a nutshell.
Right on.
And you said she's going into physical therapy?
Yes, she'll have her doctorate in physical therapy. And it's funny because, when I was going to go get my hip surgery, he was asking me about my issues and stuff. And he asked me, what have I done to try to make my hip better? And I told him my daughter was in PT school and getting her doctorate. And he kind of stopped talking about me then and started asking all about her. He's like, hey, does she need a job? Someone actually gave me his card with his personal number.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I called my daughter and talked to her. So when she was in town, he took her out to lunch with a couple other people from the PT program and showed her around. And, and I think she's very interested in working there. She was upset at me for not going to PT. She's like, hey, Dad, how am I going to get a job there if you won't even go to PT? And I'm like,
yeah, you need to be a good representative.
First 2 weeks I wasn't able to drive. And I didn't. My girlfriend took me once the first time, but I didn't want to. She works, so I didn't want to ask her to take time off. And after 2 weeks, I don't really need PT anymore. I've got treadmill at my house and bike, stationary bike, and a weight room, and I've got everything I need to work out. So I love to work out, and I do that all the time. So I just don't feel a need to go back. I'm in pretty good shape now.
Well, that's awesome.
Hey, can I ask you a quick question? Back to your knee. Did you ever have knee surgery or corrective measures
I
for
did
it?
have knee surgery when it happened. I tore up my meniscus
Hmm.
and also my posterior. It was a weird injury because the doctor said we see these injuries in people that get in car wrecks because their knee hits the dashboard and it pushes the lower part of the leg back.
Hmm.
And
Mm.
so the posterior is the one that I did damage on. Actually, jumped up in the air to block a punt, and there was a guy named Jeff Wright who pushed on the side of my shoulder pad. And when I came down, it hadn't rained in a couple of weeks. This is back before there was very much astroturf, so it was a hard field. And my knee hit the ground, it popped. And Jeff Wright went on to play in 3 Super Bowls for the Buffalo Bills. So
Wow.
at least I got injured by someone who had a name. You know?
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that's a way to look at it. Hey, Shawn, hey, tell us what's going unexpectedly well for you right now.
Well, let me tell you, it's funny. About 3 years ago, when I got divorced, you know, if you've never been divorced, you don't understand what kind of financial strain that is, right?
Hmm.
So, um, we had everything paid off and didn't have any debt or anything, and so I was living life on Easy Street, and so going through divorce, I had to, you know, give her half the value of the house and half of my 401 and stuff like that. So I came out of it. I was pretty poor, and I years ago, probably 8 years ago, stock market, AMD was down to like $8, $9 a share. And I told my wife at the time, I said, we should really invest in AMD. I said, why don't we borrow 100,000 against the house, put it on AMD? Because if it goes up, we can make a lot of money. And she said, I think you're crazy. We're not going to borrow money against something we got paid off. And so, 2 years later, that stock would have been 1.5 million on 100,000.
Hmm.
So this time when I actually was single and I saw that Intel was down and I looked at everything that Intel was doing to bring their company back, making processors again, something they haven't done in probably 20 years, and the fact that we need processors for everything. It's just something that we can't do without. And the only people that can make the high end processors is Taiwan, and that's right next to China. And Samsung does quite a bit too in South Korea, but there's no American company that made that. And since I saw that they were investing in five different manufacturing companies to make the processors, I was like, this company is going to be an up and comer, and it's gonna make some money. So I borrowed 90,000 against my equity I had left in my house, and well, just Friday that turned into 270,000, and so I
Yay.
Just
sold.
this last Friday?
That's last Friday, yeah. So
Wow.
I sold enough of that to pay off my house, and I had some other stock money that I had put in. So now this week I will pay off my house, and I will have plenty of money left in Intel stock because I still believe that it will double. So if you're looking for something to put your money in, I would say that Intel would probably be a good bet right now.
Right
If
on.
you've got about a 2 year window to really make some money on it. And so now, yeah, starting this week, I'll be debt free again, and have some. So my
Wow.
retirement might be a little
Congratulations. That's
easier.
amazing.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
mean, Randy's Randy's in the military, so his retirement's going to be great. He's got nothing to worry about.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking that myself.
So, how do you go about? How do you personally go about investing?
I already had a 401k from my work, and since I was 59 and a half, I could take the money out of my 401k
Hmm.
and put it in a rollover. And so I took as much money as I could out of it, everything. And then when I borrowed from the bank, I just took the money and stuck it straight into the rollover. I think it was the rollover. There's like three different accounts I have, and I just bought all the Intel shares I could buy 3 years ago. Funny thing is, so once these plants they're making are so expensive, they're probably 20 billion a piece or 5 billion. I don't know. They're just a lot of money, and
Mm-hmm.
making that many of them, and they weren't getting any product out of them, so they lost a lot of money. And the first year, I did really well because I put in Nvidia and a couple other places, so I made pretty good money. But then I lost 120,000 on Intel, you know,
Just like that.
and just like that. And my son was telling me, "Dad, you're crazy. You need to." And I had several people tell me, "You're crazy. You need to get out of Intel." And I said, "No, you don't lose money until you sell." So I said, "I'm just going to wait. They'll come back." All the stuff that they're making right now, I just need to. They need a couple of wins and to get these manufacturing fab companies working, and it's just going to go up. And in the last month, I think it's maybe 2 months. I know since last summer, it's went up like three times. Like I've gotten three times out what have I
Mm.
put in it so far. So I'm really happy about it. I'm doing very well, and I got a little lucky, of course. I didn't think that they would actually be doing this for another 2 years, but the AI revolution has pushed the potential value of anybody that makes stuff for CPUs
Mm.
up so drastically that, I mean, the stock isn't actually worth that kind of money, but its potential is worth far more. So a lot of people are just putting money in it right now like crazy. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if there's a lock on a stock, I would say that it's Intel, and if you got money that you don't really need, I would put in there and sit on it for a year, and I guarantee you it'll double.
Yeah. We had Homer on a few
Oh, really?
episodes. Yeah, and this was uh, really one of his passions as well. Talking, especially he was really talking about to the youth or the younger generation. Don't wait, do it early because it
Yes.
will. Yeah, and
Yes.
so anyhow, yeah, it was a very cool conversation we had with Homer.
Yeah. And I mean, to have the outcome be that you no longer have debt and are feeling that financial stability, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just, the relaxation is a lot. Here's
Yeah.
the weird thing. The weird thing is when I was 120,000 in the hole, I didn't think it never bothered me. I
That
never
is weird.
stressed about it. Didn't think about it at all. But once the stock started going up, so then I
Mhm.
was I was faced with this real possibility. So if I'm going to take out this money to pay off my house, but if I leave it in there another year, that money will probably double, and I'll have a lot more money in a year. So I lost some sleep thinking about it. What
That
should
makes
I
so much
do?
sense. Yeah.
Should
Yeah.
I should I just get out now and not have? So the advantage to it is
Yeah.
obviously is that I'm making house payments, right? So now I can take all the house payments and actually start putting money in my house to fix it up because I don't plan on living there
Mhm.
forever. And I like to sell in 2 years. My parents have some property next to them that they've already given me, and I really want a house garage.
Yeah.
So I
Nice.
want to be able to have a small house inside of a large garage with a pickleball court in the back.
Your pickleball
Put some
fiend.
bag throws in there so that
Yeah.
I can just walk out my back door into a garage big enough to play games in and have people over and party every weekend.
That sounds so
That's
fun.
that's
Yeah.
my goal. That's
Hey,
that's
just
my
real quick, a little off topic. How is mom and dad? How's uncle, the aunt and uncle?
um dad's doing really really well. Mom has started down the dementia road.
Oh,
She's
I didn't know
she's
that.
83 now,
Yeah.
and she she seems fine. I mean, I think if you talk to her, you may not notice anything
Yeah.
unless
Mhm.
you spent some time talking to her, and she would
Sure.
probably
Yeah.
you would see it then. But my dad's fine. My only worry for my dad is that he spends so much time taking care of her that he
Hmm.
stopped doing a lot of the stuff that kept him young.
Mhm.
A lot of the work that he would do in the garage and around the house and working out and stuff. And I think he's really, really worried about her. So, that's the hardest part for me is to see. I think he's going to start declining now because of his concern for her.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
That
let's
makes
hope
a lot of
not.
sense. So, Shawn, can you tell us about a memory from the past that felt surreal?
I would say the biggest memory I have from the past that felt surreal. was sitting in my apartment in college watching the Lost Boys and having the Miami Dolphins call me, ask me,
Uh-huh.
"Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "Watching TV." Like, "How would you like to be a Miami Dolphin?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love that." And then them setting up the plane tickets and stuff for me to come like the next Monday. It was like really
Wow.
really cool. That was so surreal. I mean, I knew that I would probably get a call, but I wasn't sure, and I certainly didn't think the Dolphins would call.
Okay, I don't know the process. So you could be called from any team.
Oh yeah, yeah. Who's ever up. I actually didn't get. I wasn't selected in the draft. I got a call right after the draft, um, and then the Chiefs were also interested. But when I came back from the Dolphins, they asked the Dolphins why they released me, and then they decided that I wasn't worth the risk.
Oh, that's such a
So
bummer. But wow, that's
yeah.
amazing. And so you were in your apartment watching a movie by yourself? Was anyone there with you?
The Lost Boys. Yeah, I was. There was a few of the football players in there. That's usually you when you're in college, you pretty much hang out with just other athletes that you play sports with. So, and then we knew that there was a chance that I would get a call. So there were several guys in there. Then there was another one of my friends. He was a year behind me. He got drafted the next year by the Chiefs, I think in the seventh round. So, and he
Wow,
spent
cool.
a year or two with the Chiefs. Yeah. We had quite a few people from that team actually going to the NFL. I was surprised because it was a smaller school, and I was actually at Iowa State for a while. I think we had more people go from the small school than we did from Iowa State on the team that I was on there.
Wow,
So
how interesting.
No, very cool.
yeah,
Hmm.
but the reason that was is because you guys are way too young to know this, but Randy might remember. But like I think it was 1987 when the was it Miami of Florida beat Nebraska and won the national championship for the first time ever, right? The,
Hmm.
the school president of Miami of Florida, which Miami, Florida was a small school, right? It was a private school. And his name was Green. His last name was Green. I can't remember his first name now. But after a year or two, he was released from Miami of Florida and he went to Washburn. And he thought that, well, I'm going to make Washburn a Division One program. So he put a bunch of money in the program and he brought in 80 kids over Christmas break. I was one of the 80 kids that he brought in, and it was like a completely new football team. And we went to the
Wow.
national playoffs for 2 years until the money ran out. We had a really good team.
Oh,
So yeah, it was pretty cool. Very
yeah,
fun.
that's a pretty cool
That is
story.
cool. I could see how
Wow.
that'd be surreal because this was the thing, your dream.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
you
just,
worked hard to get to that point.
yeah. Yeah. It was fun. It was a very exciting time in my life. I was young and thought I had a chance to make some real money and, be somebody. It was kind of crazy, but
Yeah, what a
yeah.
whirlwind. And then so they flew you down that Monday, and what was that like?
It was pretty cool actually. Just walking around the place, and I saw Don Shula. I was walking over to shake his hand, and then he got pulled away for some reason. So that's about as close as I got to him. Then Marino and the rest of the quarterbacks, they had a separate locker room. And
Oh,
the
Wow.
crazy thing is, we were at some college back then that it's nothing like it is now. Nowadays, they have their own facility, the
Yeah.
actual teams, but this was like their practice facility. This wasn't actually their stadium facility. And this was a practice facility. And it was at some college somewhere that they would do, 2 a days or whatever. And so you would go there and, practice and do stuff. And um, I remember I was there for the first day. I did nothing the first day, just talked, signed a contract. And then the second day I went and got my physical. And I think it was the third day that I was getting ready to go out, what they call a skeleton crew, which is just the linebackers and the defensive backs. They go out against the quarterbacks and receivers and running backs, And basically, you were just doing pass defense. So, I was like, wow, Dan Marino's going to be throwing the
Yep.
ball against me, So I was pretty
Away
excited
from
about
you.
that. Yeah.
Throwing the
Yeah.
ball
So
away from you.
I was pretty excited about that. And then a man walked up to me and said, are you Rose? I said, yeah. Take your playbook and go see somebody in some office somewhere. And I was like, really? What's that for? And then one of the guy that I was lockered next to, another linebacker, he said, man, what did you do? I said, what do you mean? He says, they're going to cut you. I
What?
said,
Uh,
what do you mean they're going to cut me? He goes, when they ask you to take your playbook into the manager's office, that means you're cut. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
no, so yeah, I walked into the manager's office and he goes, sorry, son, I got to send you home. And I was like,
Dang. Just
what?
like that.
Yeah. And I just, I was like, no, why? And he said, yeah, you failed your physical. Your knee is not where we want it to be, And I said, hey, I'll sign a waiver, whatever, man. I'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, those waivers don't work. They can still sue us. We've been sued before. We're not going to take any chances, And I just bawled like a baby. Like that was, nothing I could do. And I was on the
Yeah.
plane next day, and that was it. It was all over.
Just like that.
Wow.
Just like that. So
That's incredible. I mean, but those are the stories that we don't hear, and that's probably an extremely common occurrence across all the
I
teams.
mean, everybody on the team except for what is it? I think they end up keeping 54 people. They usually bring in about 90, and they end up keeping up 54. And and when you go there, that you have to take the place of someone who was there last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like hey, they call you and all of a sudden you're on the team. You're on the team if you make the first 3, maybe 5 rounds. It would make the coaching staff look bad to cut someone that they drafted that high. So normally those people are going to make the team. But if you're lower than that, your chances of making it are you really have to stand out quickly in practice. It's not going to be easy. I didn't think it'd be easy, but
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to try.
Yeah.
Probably the hardest thing is to stay healthy as well. In the programs that I was in the military, staying healthy, not getting broke, that was in my opinion, was 80% of the challenge.
You're always
Because
injured.
you're
Mhm.
always getting injured, and but if you can maintain or figure out how to get to the next evolution without getting broke, and then the other part is just don't quit. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah. And when you're actually playing ball, you'll get hurt so often when you're playing, and you'll hurt really, really bad. But then when the next play starts, you forget about it when the play starts, and then you don't remember it. Now, if one play goes by and it still hurts, you just got a serious injury. That's how you know you're injured serious, because it's
Mm.
something you can't forget. If you get injured and you forget it on the next play, it's not that
Then you're
serious.
okay.
yeah,
Yeah, but like when I injured my knee, the next play it still hurt, and I couldn't hardly move, and I knew I was in bad shape. I actually finished.
Yeah.
They taped my knee heavily, and I finished the game because I didn't think I was ever going to play again. After I knew it was pretty bad.
Yeah, you had that in your mind or in your heart.
Yeah.
Hey, but I do love the next question. We've had several people. So, what was one of your best movie theater experiences?
I don't know if it was actually the movie theater itself or the movie, but I remember in 1976 going to Star Wars for the first time. And I don't know what it was about that movie, but it really had an effect on me and most people that went. It was such a different movie, nothing like I'd ever seen before. It made you feel free, because the way they could just fly around the
Mm-hmm.
universe, and they had some kind of like godlike force that was available to them that would help them do stuff. And it was just, I don't know, it was really bizarre, but that's the movie in that time of my life that had, such a dramatic effect on thinking about the freedom of what technology can bring you, if you got high
Mm-hmm.
enough, thinking that maybe someday that could actually be true, but
Yeah,
obviously not, but
No,
it's
but
just,
I know what you're saying. Just it
it,
frees your mind up into the
yeah,
possibilities.
it made you, think outside the world that you're used to growing up in.
You know what's interesting about this question is that my inspiration for the question was actually hearing about other people who had the same answer, which was seeing Star Wars in theaters.
Really?
Yeah, and how
Mhm.
that was a life-changing thing for them as a child, and that they still remember the experience because, like you said, that there was nothing like that before.
And I don't even know why I put a finger on that, but I mean, I remember daydreaming about it for days and weeks after, thinking
That's
about
so cool.
Do you
how
remember who
free.
you went with?
I went with my brothers, actually.
Ah,
Me, Joe, and Steve, we all went together.
very
And,
cool.
you know, and then, the next two came out later. And I think each one of the next two, I went with a girlfriend.
Uh,
None of them had the same effect. And that first
Yeah,
one,
the
there's
first one,
nothing,
yeah.
they can't never make a second or third thing
the
that's ever.
sequels are never as good.
The
Yeah.
only movie I ever saw that was better than the original was probably Aliens. You know,
Oh, that's interesting.
that was better than the first. The first Alien was pretty good, but the Aliens,
Hmm.
with the Marines and stuff,
Yep.
that was pretty cool. You know, the '80s made such great movies.
Yeah.
I so many really great movies in the '80s. And you're younger, so maybe you probably have a favorite genre of years that you thought movies were really really good. But through all the years that I've seen movies, I thought the '80s were the best. Just you had Rocky and you had
Dun, 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 dun,
Aliens
dun.
and
Yeah.
you had what was that one about Vietnam with Charlie Sheen? That was a great show, man.
Yeah. That was
When that guy was
really intense too.
Yeah.
what's that?
I said so intense.
Yeah,
Yeah. Was one of
that
Crow when
was
he was in. Yeah.
yeah, that was a
So
great
anyhow,
show.
I can't remember the name of that movie. I seen it advertised. I've been, in my current state, as you know, I've been binging a little bit of the old movies, and so I've been focused on the '80s. And then we had the other ones that are kind of cool. The uh, Breakfast Club and some of those things too. They just made a lot of cool different movies in the '80s.
Yeah,
I thought, yeah.
they did it. I don't know why they did such a good job, or it seemed like it. I don't know if that was just because I was younger or whatever, but it just seemed like they made so many great movies back then.
What it is funny is you look at the apps and you're like going through hundreds, if not thousands of movies. I'm like, there's nothing to watch. Uh-uh.
Shawn, can you tell us what's your best advice on how to solve problems or overcome obstacles?
Oh, that's a good one. Um, Trying to solve for problems. The one thing about trying to solve for a problem is you have to take everything you know about what the problem is that you're trying to solve, everything that you know, and look at it from every possible angle. I remember when I first graduated from college, or left college, I was working at BTR, it was
Yep.
British Tan
Yep.
Rubber, and so they were making what they do is they make dash covers. You know what that is, and so they were
Cars.
making it. They were making an armrest for a Corvette, and um, the way that they make it is the stuff is like rubberized, and they stretch it over the top of plastic, and then they heat it on there. But when they were making this Corvette one, the mold for it was really really small,
Hmm.
and how they made the rubber stick to the molding so it would look like what they needed to. They would put it in this big canister and they would put it in an oven that was like 400 degrees, right? And then it would spin around. And then when it got hot enough, this little canister pieces of rubber would pop open and all these rubber pieces would stick to whatever piece of metal they hit. And that would form the exact mold of what it would look like. But they have one little corner that they couldn't get any rubber stick there, and so they were running 7 days a week, 3 shifts, constantly, and all the plants they had in the country, and so my boss said to me, hey, if you could fix this problem, they'd be very grateful. They'd probably give you a percentage of what they save. I was like, sure, huh? So I looked at what was going on. They put this in this heat and they opened up this thing. And I thought to myself, it must not be getting enough heat in that area so the rubber balls don't stick there quick enough and they stick everywhere else. So I said, well, I need to get more heat in that area. But how can you get more heat to an area? Well, you can increase the surface area. of that area, right? So how do you increase the surface area? And I thought, well, I remember when I was taking biology, how plants do it, like the root of a tree has all these little cilia, like little hair-like fibers, and that increases the area of the root by like 1,000. So it can pick up like 1,000,000 times more water. And so it can pick up, there's hardly any water in the soil, but with all these tiny little branches coming off, it can pick up a lot more water. And I thought, okay, so what I need to do is put like these little, I was thinking of I was putting like little pieces of metal in that area. And then I thought, no, wait a minute. A motorcycle head is perfect because that takes heat away and it has fins on it. So all I have to do is put fins on the area that it's not sticking to, because that would increase that surface area when it goes into the heater. And so more heat could get to that area and travel down those little fins and heat up that area. And they put the fins on there and it fixed the problem overnight. They went from about a 90% scrap down to 2% scrap in almost overnight.
Nice.
So, but they didn't give me any money for it, which I was
going to ask.
No.
Instead, they made me a supervisor, and I was like, why not an engineer? Well, we don't have any engineer openings,
Oh,
so,
wow.
but that's, so what I'm saying is the way to solve a problem is, you look at the problem and you break it down to the finest detail that you can think of. And you use everything that you've ever learned in your life to try to understand. And don't look at it from just one point of view. Just think about every different thing you've ever learned in your life and what you can use to throw at that problem, and that's very helpful. They sent me to Detroit later on because they were having trouble putting on. They also make these little, these little fuzzy things that go on your door and around your window. So when you roll down your window, it actually wipes the dew off your window on the outside.
What you're talking about.
So they were having trouble with putting these pieces of rubber that we made onto the door. Like they were throwing away like half of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got there, we measured all the channels and even the ones that they were throwing away, and they were all the same. So I knew, I was like, it couldn't be our product, right? So then I just glanced down the side of the door, and I noticed that the metal was a little bit wavy. So then I took a big flat piece of metal and put it up against there, and I measured the differences in it, and it was 3 to 5 millimeters, which would be too much for the channels that we made. And so I pointed out the fact that Okuhara needs to make better doors because their metal wasn't straight.
Yeah.
And we went from like 45, 50% scrap down to 3% scrap. And that was nice because they wanted us to fix it. They didn't want to tell Okuhara to do anything because Okuhara was a big company in Japan, and but that took care of that problem too. So problem solving again is just you really have to pay attention to detail, but all you can do is use your life experience and everything that and attack a problem with. And if you've had enough life experiences, you'll end up fixing that problem.
Very cool.
Wow. That is a great message and also a really great story to highlight that. Very cool.
Yeah. Hey, Shawn, tell us a quality that you most admire in your friends.
Friends are pretty special. When I was growing up, when I was a young kid, I didn't really understand how to become friends with people. And I wasn't that nice of a kid. I'm talking like really young, like, from kindergarten. I remember my first day in kindergarten. I wanted to go down a slide and the kid was taking too long. So I grabbed the kid and threw him down head first down the slide.
Oh, no.
Wow.
And I got suspended for a couple of days. Yeah. And then a couple of days later, we used to have these little tricycles that you could ride around, like almost look like a little racing track, and kids were beyond it too long. So I'd go knock them off and take it, and by the time I was in third grade, let me tell you something. I had a birthday party that no one came to.
No.
One person showed up, and I was like, not even my next door neighbors came. I was like, oh my God, what kind of person am I?
Yeah.
So from that point on, I was like, I have got to learn to be a very, very nice person, And so I think the quality I look for in friends is that someone that's going to be, there if you need to talk to them, that they'll be there, they'll offer some advice, give you your time, give you your way, um, but just someone that's going to be there, you know, and that you should you should always never ever try to get angry with your friends. You know, you just try to be nice to them no matter what, because you know when you get older, we don't have as many brothers and sisters as we used to. My parents had eight, nine brothers and sisters, so they were just so family oriented. Nowadays, we have maybe one or two brothers and sisters, and we just don't have that many. So our extended family now are our friends. You know, that's those people are few and far between, and you know, you do what you can to hold on to people like that.
One,
Yeah.
the most important lesson you can teach your children is how to pick friends, um, and the characteristics that people that you can trust. But the bottom line is, the people you hang out with are the people you are.
Yeah,
Over a lifetime, if you're a lucky person, you're going to have many friends. You'll have some best friends at this stage, but as you're moving and growing and, you know, into another direction of your life, that's just part of the deal.
you know, it doesn't matter if I haven't talked to people in 20 years. The minute I see them again, we're just like
Hmm.
it was 20 years ago, or 40, actually 40 years now. You
40
know,
years, dude. Yeah.
40 years ago, you know, we're still, you know, it's just like the person never left. And when you get together and you start talking to them, it's, you know, but yeah, as far as, you know, you move on from some friends, it's just that, you know, you change what you're both interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, for years when I was in MMA for about 15 years, and I had a different group of friends then, and I don't do as much stuff with those guys now because we don't have that connection of doing it. But if
Hmm.
I
Sure.
saw them tomorrow, we would all, you know, we'd be just like we're still at practice, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, Shawn, tell us, what is something important that you make sure to carve out time for weekly?
Uh, Working out, man. I mean, you know, I I work out lifting wise. I only work out twice a week, but in one of those days, I really, really push myself. Like, you know, I usually have friends come over and they're usually a lot younger than me. And, you know, I can show them a lifetime of what I've learned and
Hmm.
the easiest way to get there. And I really push myself on Monday on every lift I do. And then on Thursday, it's more of just a coasting day, you know, where I just go in and just do the movement and make sure that my body doesn't get weaker before Monday before I try to make myself stronger again.
Yeah.
And then during the week, I'll do small bits of cardio, usually not very long. I'll get on my bike in the morning and I'll ride for 2 or 3 minutes to warm up. Then I'll do like a 30-second sprint, you know, and I'll do that for 10 minutes. I do that like every day. And, you know, when my leg was healthier, I would get on the treadmill at least once a week and I would walk for, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes to warm up. And then I would run a sprint as fast as I could for 15 seconds. And I have a curved treadmill. So, you know, my son can make that thing go almost 23 mile an hour. So it'll go as fast as you can go. So
Yeah.
I'll go as fast as I can for 15 seconds and then I'll jog the last 15. And when I'm done, I can barely breathe. You
Yep.
know, then I'll walk out of that, you know, and I'll do that for about, and I'll do four sprints. Takes about 20 minutes. And that's pretty much all I do for health. And man, you know, I'm in pretty good shape for my age. You know, I'm physically still strong, and most people that look at me say that I look like I'm in really good shape. And you know, everything's kind of functional. Pull ups, you never know when you're going to need to do a pull up, man. I mean, you might have to climb a fence to avoid someone or an animal or something. If you can't climb a fence, guess what? You know, if you can't do a pull up, you're in
You're
trouble.
getting
I mean,
caught.
a pull up, doing a pull up can actually save your life.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
that's why I'm really big on pull-ups. I think pull-ups are probably one of the most functional things you can do, and bench press is one of the funnest things you can do. And
Mhm.
everything else, you know, the sprints is just to get my cardio in a position where I'm in pretty good shape and my muscles are used to going full out, you know,
Hmm.
because
Yep.
maybe I have to run someday from something. Who knows?
You never know.
You never know.
If you had a time machine and you were allowed to visit two different times and places in the past, what time periods would you choose?
Wow. I mean, if I could go back and tell myself how to become rich, that would obviously be one of them, right? I mean, what stocks
Right.
to invest in, you know,
Hmm.
that would probably be number. But I mean, as far as history goes, I think I would like to go. I think the most fascinating person in the history of mankind is George Washington. I think George Washington not only changed the United States, he changed the entire world. If you really think about things that he did, because they thought that having a king would probably be the way to go, and he said no, we can't have a king because that's what we just left, and they wanted to make him a king. This if you watch anything about his life, it's so crazy that he he was at the perfect age where he didn't want. I mean, if he was 20, he might have wanted to be a king. If he was 30, he might have wanted to be a king. But the fact that he was older and he saw what the world was like, and he didn't have the energy, and he knew he didn't have the energy to do stuff like that. And so we came up with the democracy, right? Which eventually the most of the world has become a democracy. But just think, if George Washington didn't exist, or if he died in one of those early battles, and someone else would have taken over as a king, would the entire world have democracy now? Probably not. I mean, that one man changed so much of the world, and we just don't see it, But if someone like
Hmm.
that didn't come along, it would. It's crazy to think about how it would have changed everything in our future, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I do think
And
about
so,
stuff like that a lot with the butterfly effect you're describing, like if
yeah.
one thing would have changed. But then when you think of it on such a grand scale, in terms of how it impacts literally everybody, that
Hmm.
is a little bit crazy to think about. And so if you went back in time, what would you do?
I would just want to. I just want to meet him and talk to him and see what kind of person he is. Just
Yeah.
to see what kind of person he would be. Um, I read a book one time, and I'm trying to remember the name of the book, but it was super interesting because the book talked about a lot of successful people, and how they became successful. And most super successful people, um, of course, everyone's driven, right? There are so many people out there that are driven and they're smart, but they don't become super successful. Becoming super successful, you have to have some luck involved. And usually that luck is you have to be born at the right place at the right time at your perfect age.
Uh-huh.
Because if you look at someone like Microsoft, who's the Microsoft guy? Bill Gates, right?
Hmm.
The only reason Bill Gates learned to program at that time is because he grew up in a place in California that had a computer that people could get on and learn how to program. It was the only one in the entire world. And it happened to be right by where he lived. And his parents somehow had access to that computer, and they bought him access, and he got extra access because of his parents. And so he learned to program. And there were only a few people in the world. That's what's weird. If you look at everybody that made mega money out of programming, they all came from a small place in California. It's because that's the only place in the entire world that had the ability to do that.
Right.
They happened to be at the right age. They were right around 14, 15, at the age where they really wanted to learn how to do it. If they were 30 at the
Yeah.
time, they would have been had a family, or,
Yeah.
their life would have been completely different. And there are
Priorities.
so many
Yeah.
instances in life that's just like that.
Uh-huh.
You know, um, like I said, I got lucky with Intel because it just happened to be at the right time that I put into it.
Hmm.
I mean, that it came up so quickly that AI is going crazy, and that's the only reason that it's worth so much money right now. Otherwise, I
Mhm.
probably would have had to wait 2 more years. But it just sometimes you just happen to be born in the right place at the right time at your right age. You know.
A few years ago, I read a biography on Beethoven, and I was kind of taken aback by how much lined up for him to be able to have the best lessons possible
Yeah.
when he was a child, and then to line up for his parents to, work in the local city government, and then line up these opportunities for him to perform at a young age. And they took him out of school so he could have a private tutor, and
Mhm.
had all of these opportunities, but lived in the right place for it at the right time. And how many other people in the world at the same time had the same drive or love or just brain for music that he did, but didn't have the same opportunities line up like that. And it's
Absolutely.
weird to think about sometimes, like
It
how much is lost to that in the world.
blind luck.
Hmm.
I mean,
Mm.
blind luck is so important in someone's life. I mean, like you said, to define someone's success by how it's defined by most people, right? I don't know if you guys have got to watch the Michael Jackson show that's out now.
No, but I've heard
It's
about
pretty
it.
entertaining. It's pretty entertaining. It's pretty good, and in that show, he looks like a very very good person. But you know, his dad was a very mean person. But without his dad, you would have never heard of him.
Yeah.
He
And
was the
it's just
driving force behind
he was,
those.
yeah, but he was a cruel driving force. But without that driving force, you would have never heard of him.
Yeah.
And that just happens for everyone that's made it, that anyone would consider made it. You had to have some kind of help from someone else. No one does it on their own. We're all humans. Humans,
Yeah.
we can't do anything on our own. Everything that we do, we had help from someone to get where we're at.
Hmm.
And that's part of life.
So, as we roll into our last question, I think this is a great segue, talking about dreams and success. Can you tell us about a dream or a goal that you are currently working towards?
Well, I think I already spilled the beans on that earlier. At my age, I don't have a whole lot of things I'm really working toward. Trying to stay alive every day.
Yeah.
That's always a plus. I would love to have a house that I could walk out into a garage that I can play games in, have friends there, share my time with, have, just fun. I
Hmm.
want to spend what time I have left having fun, enjoying my life, because, what else is there in life, really? I mean,
Yeah.
if you're a really religious person and you believe that, you're going to have eternal life, and that's something you can really look forward to. If you're uncertain of that, and the only thing you're certain of is here and now, then you should probably try to have as much fun as you can, because when it's over, it's all over, and so you just got to hope for the best.
That's an interesting perspective. I think no matter what your beliefs are, we shouldn't sleep on the time that we have now. And that I think everyone could take that sentiment of, how do you want this time to be that you have? That's not guaranteed. The length of it's not guaranteed. What do you want it to be like? And I think fun is an awesome way for it to be.
Yeah.
Our time is limited. Randy's and ours are much more limited to yours, not because we're older, but because as long as something super bad in the world doesn't happen, that the rate that science is going, like, see, the ability for you to live to be 100 and maybe more has gone up so drastically that I wouldn't be surprised if you lived to 120 or something.
That
And
would be crazy, though.
you know, I mean, 100 years ago, we never dreamed that life would be like this now, that
Yeah,
we'd be talking to each other thousands of miles away, real time on a screen,
Yeah.
you
I
In the
know?
know.
studio.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. So, what you have coming up in your future, Lex, is something that you'll never even think about right now, but it'll come up, and your life will be just as exciting then as it is now. Because, I'm 63 years old. I still like life today as much as I liked life 20, 30 years ago.
That's
I
wonderful.
still,
Yeah.
I still want to
Yeah.
be here. I still want to live and do stuff. I mean, the only downside that I have now is that the fact that I'm going to get older and not be able to do stuff.
Out of all of that, the one thing that you'd hit on several times is your health. Is so important, that you can get up off the sofa and go out, and if you want to go camping or
As you know
play
now.
pickleball or whatever. Yeah. Once you lose it for a little bit of time, it motivates you to get back going again.
Hmm.
Obviously, I'm experiencing a little bit of setback, and it weighed heavy. I'm like, holy cow, this is not good. I've lost something. It's time for me to buck up and get it back. But your health is so important.
I feel like if we look back at the questions that we've talked about today, I would say you could connect all of our discussion to physical health or social health, like when we're talking about friendship, or emotional health, which is so interesting, especially with this last answer of what's a dream or goal that you're working towards. And it's that the financial freedom and that space that you want for yourself and a space for you to set up so you can spend time with your friends, that's your priority, is to set up your time the way you want it to. Physical, social, and emotional health. I mean, that is what we have, and that's what we have to intentionally cultivate for ourselves lifelong. Pretty awesome stuff that you brought onto the pod today.
I think that when I think of a goal that I had, and I still kind of have, but it's gone away a lot now, was it was my kids. I had focused so much on my kids, and I wanted my kids to be successful
Hmm.
at anything they wanted to do, and so I wanted to show them that if they can succeed at anything, they can succeed at anything that they try to do. Right. So when they were younger, I always looked for a sport that they could do that they would be successful at. And
Hmm.
so we tried many sports. I was their coach in everything that they did. So was a baseball coach, softball coach, wrestling coach, and then I became a track coach. And that's the sport that they both excelled at, and they both enjoyed the success that they had from it. And it made them feel good that they were good at something.
Yeah.
That's really that was my goal. My goal was is I wanted my kids to feel good about being good at something, because I remember when I was younger, and I'm sure you remember too, Randy, when you were good at wrestling. When you're good at something, people treat you different, and it
Yeah,
makes you feel good. And it makes you feel special that you're good at something. And I wanted my kids to feel that specialness in their life. So I did everything I could to make them good at something, and they exceeded my expectations, and then they've thanked me many times for the things that I did for them. As
well,
far
that's
as going,
awesome.
and that just makes me feel like I succeeded as a parent. You
Yeah,
know.
that's pretty amazing. And then to see where they are right now, this graduating this month and in December. Wow.
Yes, and you know what? I mean, I don't know if you know this, but right now I think my son is has the fastest. I think he's number. I don't know. I think he's number 31 in the world in the 200 meters fastest
Wow.
time. And I think
That's amazing.
he's number 14 in Division One. 200-meter time.
Nice. That's
And
awesome.
yeah, and that's something I never would have guessed he would do so well at. But we worked on it his entire life.
Wow.
Hey, Shawn, we've come to the end of our pod, and we want to thank you for sharing your time and your stories with us today on the porch.
No problem. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Right on.
Good. We did too.
Okay,
All
cool.
right. We'll talk soon.
All
Talk
right.
soon. Well, I enjoyed sitting with Shawn on the porch. It has been a long time since we've had real discussions.
Yeah. What an awesome time. It's always great to connect with guests who are family.
Yeah. Yep. Some great stories, too.
Yeah. What stood out to you?
Uh, you know, Obviously, the one thing I only knew Shawn really when I was young.
Uh huh.
So as adults, I really wasn't around him. I haven't had really much experience. So, just the grown up aspect of things, and then his reflection of different things.
Yeah. Makes sense.
They were the ones, that kind of shaped who I am, through high school, and then and carried on, and then again lost just track of them. But
Hmm.
what did you take out of it?
I think I brought this up with you and Shawn after we stopped our recording, but I really liked his story about how to solve problems or overcome obstacles, and that very clear picture of when he was saying you need to pull from your life experiences and your knowledge that you've gained from literally everywhere and pull it all together to tackle a problem from lots of different perspectives, and then told
Hmm.
that great story where he solved the problem thinking about tree roots
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I mean, but
the
like that's
proverbial thinking out of the box.
such a great example of
Yeah,
to highlight what he was talking about. And I think that that was a great strategy that we all need to remember, because sometimes we do get stuck on our one primary perspective about things, and sometimes things do take a lot of very creative thinking to solve. But like he said, if you have enough life experiences and you can pull from all of them, then you can solve the problem.
yeah. Nope. It was I always tell the guys out at work that I work with is we work the problem.
Another thing that I really liked was his question about what you admire about your friends. and
Yeah.
how he started with talking about himself and his approach to peers when he was young, starting in kindergarten.
Or that was, I guess, a approach, not the right one.
I
But
didn't say it was the right one. I said his
yeah,
approach. Yeah.
yeah,
And well, then having this moment of clarity as a third grader, thinking, I need to change up what I'm doing.
yeah,
And so it was interesting that he chose that question and then talked about his evolution to becoming the type of friend that he wants to be and also wants to have. So
yeah,
that reciprocal notion of it was pretty cool. And
yeah.
then, sorry, I'm hogging all the time, but the time machine question, first time that question has been selected.
First time. Yep.
So that question is so vast, like in terms of what you could choose to answer. So that was interesting to see what he selected for himself.
Mm-hmm. Well, overall, I thought that was a really fun time.
Super fun time. Always good to connect with our guests on the digital front porch. And if you would like to join us on the podcast sometime, please reach out. We would love to connect with you, just like we got to chat with Shawn today. So thanks again, Shawn. And I think that's another episode of Porch Swing People.
Porch Swing People, out.
Porch Swing People is recorded and produced by Lex and Gibby. Opening music was written and produced by Michael Gibson. Porch Swing People is a podcast featuring everyday people. If interested in being a guest, email us at porchswingpeeps@gmail.com.